You are Locked On Wolverines, your daily podcast on the Michigan Wolverines, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Happy Wednesday. We are back and doing it. Locked On Wolverines podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. I'm your man at Disney, Isaiah Hole, publisher of Wolverines Wire through USA Today Sports Media Group. Yes, I am at Disney World. I know I was at Disneyland before. By the time you're watching or listening to this, I am 100% at Disney. No matter what time, 3 a.m., Disney. 5 p.m., Disney. If you want to know what my plan is for the day, I say this on Monday as I record this, so it's not actually Wednesday for me. So if I end up my plane gets rerouted to Shreveport, then I probably am not doing this. But I am going to Epcot Center. I'm starting out there so that I can ride Guardians of the Galaxy. Obviously, also we'll do the Ratatouille ride and Soarin', and then I'm going to hop around. I'm going to go to definitely Flight of Passage, my favorite ride anywhere, at any park. That is on the docket, maybe for both days. So we'll go do that. Probably some Everest, and then hop on over to Hollywood Studios to do my do Tower of Terror and Aerosmith Rock and Roller Coaster, and all the Star Wars stuff. I haven't decided yet how I want to handle. I want to do Rise of the Resistance again. I just rode it twice in Disneyland, but it's still really good. So we will see. That is what I am up to today in reality, instead of Monday when I'm recording this, where I'm sitting here talking to you. Anyway, we are getting to some lists. Lists. Listapalooza continues. Today, 10 breakout players for Michigan, spring edition, not meaning they're going to break out in spring, but just saying that they will break out in the 2023 season. Here's the guys I have my eyes out on right now. Let's start with, let's go 3-4-3. I think that's good, since I've had a 2.5 minute long intro here. So my number 10 is Jimmy Rolder, linebacker. Because even though he was very uneven and he was starting to see a lot of playing time as the season went on, he and by the way, I haven't even written this article. This is the only one that I was going to write. Haven't written it. Might not write it. Might just verbalize it. But Rolder is a guy who was a freshman last year, played a bit more so as the season went on, was a bit uneven, certainly looked like a freshman at times. But again, I've said it a million times in the first Monday and Tuesday episode, players tend to make the biggest leap from year one to year two. And it's year two for him. He could be a massive player. He end up stealing away opportunities from, Ernest Hausman, who was a first-year player last year and it comes here for his second year. Could steal away from Michael Barrett. Could steal away from a returning Nakai Hill-Green. There's so many different guys that he could take away time from. But I long have thought that he had that opportunity as a player. Certainly, he's gotten accolades from the coaching staff. It's just a matter of him doing it. Number 9, one of 2 tight ends on my list, Matthew Hibner. Dude, it's time. It's time. He broke out into the scene this year only on special teams when he recovered the fumble at the outset of the Maryland game. And then he was out on the field in the kind of scary time and against Illinois late in the game, when they had Colston Loveland and him out there, and it's like you don't feel necessarily good about it, but you remember he's a 4-star guy. He's been in the system. This will be his senior year, and he's only gotten like a handful of snaps. They basically brought him out there and said, look, that's the field you're going to play on someday, Grandpa. And that's where he's at. But he's got more of an opportunity now because Michigan lost 3 tight ends. Well, I think more than that, 4 tight ends this offseason. And yes, they brought in more, right? But and Colston Loveland still extant, but and everything. But I think with Matthew Hibner and the fact that they lost Joel Honigford on top of Luke Schoonmaker, to me, he fills it's depending on how some of these other guys do, he can fill kind of more of that Schoonmaker role. He has that look, that build. Unfortunately, so does AJ Barner, but Hibner hasn't really done much yet to really tell us much of anything, but it's just time. It's a heavily utilized position group. I think we're going to see a lot of him, and I think he's going to end up being pretty good once his time has come, which is now. All right, finishing us out in segment 1. This is kind of cheating. There's a couple that I'm kind of cheating with. You'll figure out all that as it goes along. My number 1 is extremely cheating. Probably the most cheating of all. But number 8 is Mike Sainristil. I have Mike Sainristil, and I know it's like, dude, he's like a starter and a team captain. He's going to break out. Yeah. For a player like him, when I say breakout, I think it's like, okay, everyone's going to know his name. Not just Michigan fans, not just the guys he burned from the other side. I know, he's probably, he's saying his name in Columbus probably creates, people probably start shivering, feeling footsteps. But it's, I think that he'll take things to the next step. Well, why do I think that? Because last year was his first year at the college level playing defensive back. Because he was it was like he was not necessarily learning on the fly because he got some time in spring, but like even he said, I want to take the time to get really technical with it because it's like I just feel like I was relying on my athletic ability. Now he has the time to actually reflect on it, figure out what he needs to do better and actually excel. And that's why he came back. So I think that it's going to go pretty good for Mike Sainristil in 2023 because he got that dog in him. Keep on using these idioms. Insane. And Mike keeps falling down. It's annoying me. All right. We're going to continue on with numbers 7 through 4 here in just a moment. Before we do that, listen, this year, the only app you need at your Super Bowl party is FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. We're really excited about our new sports betting partner for Locked On because they're the #1 sports book in America, and that's FanDuel. If you're new to FanDuel, it's even better. They have even so many great features that make betting on sports fun and easy. Download FanDuel today so that you can bet Super Bowl 57 with a no-sweat first bet. You'll get up to $3,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. That's insane. FanDuel lets you bet on everything from the money line to point spreads to who will score a touchdown. The FanDuel Sportsbook app is safe, secure, and super easy to use. Best of all, you can get paid your winnings instantly. I cannot talk. I've been doing it for like an hour and a half. So join FanDuel today at FanDuel.com/LockedOn to claim your no sweat first bet on Super Bowl 57. That's FanDuel.com/LockedOn. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL. I have been talking for an hour and a half at this point. Because if you're watching, you can see what I'm representing on my shirt is Disney. I'm representing both things, Michigan and Disney. If you're listening, you can't see that. I'm just telling you about it. On into segment 2. We've got more. We got more guys. Well, let's get into them here. Just want to double check one thing first. Okay, we're good. We're good for that the whole time. Okay. Where are we at? And I'm just playing with Windows and I don't know what I'm doing. That's an evergreen statement. Number 7. I have Derek Moore. Edge rusher. Maybe they bulk him up and he moves inside. But I feel like he was just scratching the surface. Of course, again, the freshman caveat. Year 1 to year 2. Had moments where he looked like a freshman, had moments where he looked really frustrated. The Iowa game, some of these moments where people were like, oh no, is Derek Moore? Like, that's the thing with the transfer portal. You're constantly fearful that someone is going to leave. But Derek Moore, I think, he got a lot of early playing time as a true freshman. I think we all thought probably Derek Moore was going to be the guy we'd be talking about more and compared to Mason Graham. Didn't quite go that way, per se, but I think the dude is going to be a monster. Remember, some guys don't really show out a lot in their first year. Rashawn Gary was okay in 2016, right? He wasn't like breaking the doors down. 2017 is a different story. I kind of see that for Derek Moore. He's somewhat intricately tied with my number 6, who's another edge rusher, and I got Braden McGregor. Braden McGregor really came on strong late in the season, and I'm going to look up some of his stats here, but I'm not going to look at his. The stats probably aren't going to tell me a heck of a lot, to be honest. And I'm in the very wrong year here. He ended up finishing 7th with tackles for loss with 4.5. Derek Moore had 2, by the way. But Braden McGregor really came on strong. And now he's got to make up for the fact that the number 1 guy and the number 3 guy aren't there, Mike Morris and Ayabi. So that is huge. And plus, I mean, like, he just was making plays. 7th in sacks, too, with 2 sacks. Again, the number 1 guy, the number 2 guy aren't there anymore. Mike Morris had 7.5 sacks. Ayabi had 4.5. So Derek Moore actually had 2 sacks as well. So, and as far as tackles are concerned, let's just look that up just for, you know what, 16 tackles, 9 were solo. So he was 16th with 16. Derek Moore was 22 with 8. But Braden McGregor, I feel like, again, senior year, it's just kind of time. And we started seeing, like, late in the season, I feel like he really started putting it on late in the season. That's when he started to look really good. He had 2 passes broken up on top of it. I mean, it just feels like he's turning that corner. He's not going to be Aiden Hutchinson, which is unfortunate because if you remember, if you go way back to 2018, when this podcast first started, I said whatever Aiden Hutchinson's going to be, Braden McGregor is going to be that, but it's just slightly better. It's not going to play out that way. Mea culpa. Me scusi. But I do think that he is going to be really good. And I think that it's probably going to be a mixture of him and a couple other guys that are going to make a real big difference. They've got, the thing is, they've got a lot of potential at the edge spot. There's yet one more edge player on here that I'm going to get to. And it's going to be in this middle group here. So next, we are going to go to number 5. And that's AJ Barner, a guy who was a representative for Indiana at Big Ten Media Days and decides, you know what, peace, I'm going to Michigan. I think he was a team captain. He was 6th receiving. Had kind of similar stats, way more catches, less yards, 1 more touchdown in less games than Colston Loveland. Colston had 16 for 235 and 2 touchdowns. A.J. Barner had 28 in 10 games, 199 yards, 3 touchdowns. I think that he just coming to Michigan has an opportunity to just suddenly just shoot through the roof. Because Michigan, even though Indiana was like really pass happy for half the season and then kind of shut that down and became run oriented, he's just playing with everything's better. Better players all around him. It'll allow him to thrive. It'll allow him to shine. I think Colston Loveland is going to be a guy that is just so good. And I think in part what that's going to do is it's going to create more opportunities for AJ Barner, right? It's just kind of like how Eric All and Luke Schoonmaker helped each other. We didn't see that much this year. But even like, Luke Schoonmaker and Colston Loveland helped each other. Because you can hone in on one, what happens if they're both going out and passing and all of that. So I think that AJ Barner is going to be really good. I think he's going to have a year that suddenly he's getting some national attention because he's not in Indiana. He's in Ann Arbor. And I think he can make some really big plays. So I am super excited to see what he can do. I really wish I could I wish I didn't delete my interview with him. I think I did. Pretty sure I deleted my interview with him at Big Ten Media Days. Because I just asked him questions about Michigan. And he's like, dude, what? I wish I could find it. Because that would be really fun to go through. Pretty sure I don't have that anymore. But I'll check. Maybe I do. Maybe I didn't delete it. I ran out of space, so that happens. All right, finishing us out in segment 2. Number 4, edge rushers Josiah Stewart. I'm like going from team to team here to get all of my all of my stats and stuff here. He's an edge rusher, transferred over. He had 3.5 sacks last year in 12 games for Coastal Carolina. So he actually had 12.5 sacks in 2021 as a freshman. 12.5 sacks. Really dropped down. Has a lot of capability. Tackles for loss. He had 10 last year. He had 15.5 the year before. This guy has the capability. Now, playing for the Chanticleers is different than playing for the Wolverines. Playing the competition they face is a little bit different. Certainly. But he got kind of outshined by Adrian Hope. I want to see if there's any other stats here that I'm missing that I want to talk about. 1 pass broken up, 5 QB hurries, a fumble forced. I think that with there being something of a vacuum with Mike Morris and Ayabi gone, and even though you've got 2 edges I just mentioned and Jalen Harrell and some of these other young guys who are going to come up, I think that it's going to be feast time. It's going to be one of those things where it's like he comes out and it's just like, oh, wow. So I think he's going to break out. I do. I think it's mission breakout for Josiah Stewart. I mean, some of those stats are alarmingly good. All right, we are going to continue on here with the top 3 of our top 10 breakout players in 2023 spring edition. Again, not saying it's happening in spring. It's just who in spring I think will end up looking good in the fall. We'll get to the top 3 momentarily. All right, we've got a couple minutes left. I cheated a lot in the top 3. Oh, I really cheated a lot in the top 3. It's going to be so anticlimactic. I mean, my number 1 is Blake Corum. He's going to break out this year, finally. He's finally going to do it. People are going to know who he is. They're going to know his name after this year. Behind him at number 2 is J.J. McCarthy. Behind him at number 3 is Desmond Howard. People will know who they are. Number 3 in reality is, and figuratively as well, is Kenneth Grant. Big opportunity for him. Was getting all the hype. Harbaugh said, well, the gift from the football gods was Mason Graham, but like before the season when he said it, everyone was alluding to it was Kenneth Grant. It made kind of sense because he told it to Bruce Feldman, and then Kenneth Grant made Bruce Feldman's freaks list. He's just a behemoth. Was pretty good when he was in there. Was just a freshman. You don't normally expect freshmen to excel at defensive tackle. You start seeing him, sophomore, junior year. And now that there's something of a vacuum with some guys gone, I think that Kenneth Grant is just going to blow up. You can say the same thing with Mason Graham, but I think these are all levels in and of themselves, right? This is like compared to where they were, right? Mike Sainristil is a guy that's known by probably every national media guy at this point. My number 1, someone that's known by a lot of people. So it's relative to their own production to some degree is how I do this list. With that in mind, I don't have JJ McCarthy on here, but like he could break out, right? Like he could go from being like, hey, he was pretty good this last year to he is Joe Burrow. Is that going to happen? Probably not, but he could. That's a possibility, a capability. If he was in the right system, he certainly could have that capability. I think he's got the right mindset. But Kenneth Grant, being the behemoth that he is, he really could be that tip of the spear. And he's going to be in rotation. He's going to get his opportunity. Number 2, it's a 3-way tie. I put them all right in there. Darius Clemens, Marion Walker, and Tyler Morris. The 3 sophomore wide receivers. Partially because I don't know which one will do what. It could be one of them. It could be all 3 of them. Freshman caveats apply. I would have thought Darius Clemens was going to be the guy. Tyler Morris got, I think, more snaps than he did. Amarian Walker, I mean, he could switch over to defensive back. That's a possibility. We saw him play that. But, I mean, this is a hyped up group that rivals the 2017 haul. It's just we, again, have to see the production. And considering that Michigan needs a little bit more going for it at wide receiver, you lost Ronnie Bell, you lost Andrell Anthony. Some of those guys are going to get involved. And I think Tyler Morris is going to kind of fill more of that Ronnie Bell role. AJ Henning certainly will probably be involved there as well. Amarian Walker and Darius Clemens are more outside guys. Amarian, I think, will probably be a little bit more of the Andrell Anthony type role, whereas Darius Clemens will probably be more of the Cornelius Johnson type role, your number one type possession receiver. So I think that all of them are going to look a lot better. Some might look better than others. If you asked me before last season who's going to be the best of the three, I'd say Darius Clemens. Very well could be Tyler Morris. It could be Amarian Walker. It's really anybody's guess. Really hard to go off of what we've seen thus far. But I would bet that all three will look pretty good this next year. My number one and the biggest cheating that I have done so far is Will Johnson, my number one breakout player. How is a 5-star that was rated one of the top cornerbacks, according to PFF, in the country, and who started in the back end of the season, end up being my number one? Well, it's simple. Again, it's relative. He went from being like he's doing pretty good. He's actually, he got 2 picks in the Big Ten championship game. There's a big difference between that and that guy is elite. That guy is locking guys down. That you don't even throw to his side of the field. That's a dumb move. And I just think that there is a gulf between where he was last year and where he will finish this next year. I think we'll look back. No one's going to do this. No one's going to sit and be like, let's rewatch that Colorado State game, the second half, and see how Will Johnson did. But I think you'll look at that, and then you'll look at where he finishes, the final game that he plays, whether it's a traditional bowl game, college football playoff game, national championship game, whatever it is. You'll look at that first game and this other one and be like, that kid didn't, the first tape that you rolled, that guy didn't look like he even knew how to play football compared to this other guy. That is the level of ability that I think he has, the level of growth I think he'll make. Because you see just even the level of growth from game 1 to game 14. Just worlds better. So he's my number one. That's going to do it for our Wednesday edition. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. We are continuing our Listapalooza with a Thursday episode. No mailbag on Thursday. Not that I've done it on Thursdays for a while here. We've been pushing it to Friday. But as said, I will be at Disney. I am at Disney. Whatever. We're going to do the 10 most overlooked players. Guys that just ain't getting enough respect. They're the Rodney Dangerfields of the Michigan football team. I'm too old, which is why I made that reference. So we're going to get to those guys on Thursday. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. We'll talk to you soon. Peace.